one. What's up?
How's it going, man? Excited to
Been a
be
long
here
week.
today.
It's been a heck of a week, ain't it?
And it really has. It really has. It's coming down to the end of January for whatever reason. Just feels that much more busy. And January was never like all that busy as an auditor though,
Right.
because you're like getting ready to be really busy. Maybe around this time of January you'd start picking up. Um, but it takes everybody a couple weeks to close, right? And so you wouldn't really ever start auditing anyone until the third week of January at the beginning anyway. And you're kind
Right.
of stacked from like January to April. So the first couple weeks of January were always like, yeah, all right, get ready, get your mind right, like all that kind of stuff. And that actually connects to my story about fellas. so, so uh, there at RSM, when I started my audit career, a couple of the guys that I worked with, we we would we'd go out regularly, right? We'd just do things together all the time. We played League of Legends together. Um, we went out to the local bars, like all the different things that you do as a mid-20s person, young professional, right?
hmm
And and every once in a while, when I would come into the room, I would I can't remember if it was from a commercial. I think it was from a commercial. It may have been a Super Bowl commercial from several years ago. It would have been like 15 years ago now. But the guy in the commercial is like, fellas, 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 what's cracking, right? And so every once in a while I would do this into the room that we're in or whatever was going on, right? So I'd be like, fellas, 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 what's going on? Um, we we got older, right? Friends started getting married. We did something where we were in a limo, and I can't remember if it was somebody's bachelor party or if it was a work-related thing where we were. Well, I don't remember why we were in a limo now, but one of my friends was like, "Here to deal with the music," and said, you have a really really good like DJ name. You should be DJ Fellas. And so since since then I've used that name occasionally. Like if I was ever playing like online poker at Buffalo Wild Wings or something like this, I would just be Fellas or DJ Fellas or something, some silly name. It's just a silly story. And so when I entered the chat today, instead of just being Chris and being boring, I was like, let's spice it up. Fellas. I'm going to be Fellas today. And to this day, when I send them text messages to check in on them, to see what's going on with them, I always start it, and I do it very intentionally now. I started with Fellas. What's going on? How are you doing? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, whatever it might be. Um,
That's very
uh,
nice.
so
I
very
have
silly
I have a
story.
nickname that has survived since college to
Yeah.
this day. So, as many of you know, I played poker in college with a group of guys. We turned one of our study rooms into a poker room, and we would just keep a book all year long and then settle up at the end of the year. And sometimes that was cash, sometimes that was someone's waterbed or flat screen TV, whatever needed to happen because we were broke college kids. But since then, we've always, every summer, we still get together. And once a year, everyone kind of flies into the same spot and we play poker for an entire summer. And we call that the Bender. So when I was in college, my nickname was Kristy Bobisti. And then it got shortened to just Bobisti. And so those guys, to this day, when I come walk through the door for the Bender, I hear Bobisti.
It's a fantastic story. Love it. Love to hear it. Wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful,
That
wonderful.
brings back some college memories there for me as well. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, one of my side emails is the J Man, DAJAMAN. And that was what my nickname was in college. So that was first Hotmail account, my first Yahoo account. But one of the
Yeah.
guys, and he was always, a little past inebriated, if you know what I mean. He'd always come up with a
hmm
different way of saying it every time, and
That's
good
fun.
times.
Man, it is wild how some of those things stick around for so long,
For
and you
sure.
never really think about that much.
Yeah,
But it's true. But it's true.
for sure.
What's new in accounting?
That's
I
a
don't
great
really.
question. Everything new that
Yeah,
I've seen this week is tax related.
yeah, we got big tax things happening.
What's that
Well,
whole
we
ERC thing that's happening that just got, did that date get pushed up or something?
so there's pending legislation. There's a bill with, for the first time ever, tax extenders. They will extend a credit or something. And right now they're looking at the 100% bonus depreciation supposed to go down to 80%, then 60. They're looking at extending that. They're looking at extending some of the tax credits out there. And for the first time ever passing an extender bill, they're looking at a fully paid extender bill because they're going to claw back they're clawing back, first of all, shortening the deadline for filing your ERTC. And they are also putting out a kind of like an amnesty to allow people to pull back their claim if they might be borderline fraudulent. And they're really being really cool about it because they're only going to make you pay back 80%.
Oh, is that right? Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great deal.
that's a great deal. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I think in some cases they've already filed tax returns, they've already paid. So, this is kind of the way of dealing with that, I guess. So, yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot going on there. Crypto is going to be on more forms. So, different types of returns now. You're going to have to disclose if you transacted any cryptocurrency transactions. IRS is opening up for filing on Monday. So, that's a big one. So,
yeah,
yeah, and I guess for me, it's because this has been the week that all the engagement letters have been going out. So, I've been really paying attention to it.
yeah. Right. Well, yeah, those are all big things. Do
Yeah.
any of those have what did the, like? If you're a business owner, which one's the most important?
To me, the most important is that 100% bonus depreciation. That could be
Yeah,
a
that was what
big
I
dog
thought
song
too.
for some companies. Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's moving from like just is it regular depreciation to back to 100%, or is it like how is it structured? Like
I
what's the impact?
believe 23 was supposed to go down to 80%. I don't think it was cut last year. I mean, I'm still in a. I mean, I'm in Florida. We're still doing taxes for 2022. I mean, come on, really.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
yeah. So a little behind here, but yeah, no, they
Yeah,
haven't fully taken away the bonus. It's just slowly going away, and what they want to do is extend it out through 2025. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. It's all tied up now in Congress, and gotta see what
yeah.
happens. And now,
Do they?
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do they have a deadline to make a decision on that, or do they just kind of let that drag as long as they want to?
Well, considering tax filing opens on Monday, it's probably too
Yeah,
late,
probably
but
need to
they're
get it
probably
done.
going to do it anyway, and then they'll
Right.
retroactively update the systems and apply it. And
Hmm.
you've already started seeing out in the influencer space, TikTok, that don't file
Yeah.
your taxes. Wait for these great things to happen. Oh, the other one is they're going to expand the child tax credit. I think they're going to increase it and possibly do monthly payments on it, kind of like we did during COVID. But
Yeah.
but they're like, yeah, just
I'd
wait on
love to
that.
see that.
Yeah, but when they did do that previously, they said don't file. People did, and then they started amending and like don't amend it, and they automatically made the changes and sent refunds. So it's just so confusing. It's no different than, okay, we're going to change the 1099 limit, and we're going to raise it, or we're going to do away with it. We're not going to have things like that. And everybody's going to have to do it across the board. And then no, it's going to be too
Yep.
much confusion. We're just going to roll that one more year, and roll it one more year. And now I think it's the third year
Yeah.
now we rolled that. So to avoid confusion, we're creating more confusion. If that makes sense.
I mean, does it make sense what you're saying? Yes. Does it make sense what's actually happening there? Maybe not so much.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
So,
So
speaking of TikTok accountants,
yeah.
what's your opinion on TikTok accountants? Do you feel like there's any good ones out there, or do you feel like they're all kind of crap?
Honestly, I don't. Well, I don't partake in TikTok accountants. Sorry. Accountants on TikTok, that's another story. Now, there are some good ones out there, and I love watching Laura Lynn Wilson break it down. She's great at it. Thing right now, there's this guy that I've been following on TikTok since I got my Jeep. So I got a Jeep 4xe Wrangler 2 years ago, and he was doing all these TikTok videos on it and followed him. Now all of a sudden he has this software called TikTok Backstage or TT Backstage or something like that. And he's like, fill this out for all those gifts you're giving to other streamers. Those aren't gifts. It's advertising. And I'm like, dude, they're all going to get busted because if they're gifts, which they are, guess what? $25 limit. You're gonna get people in trouble there. And he's like selling access to the software for like $29 a year.
It's a good price.
It's a great price. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, if I went to TikTok for my tax advice, I'd have 3 G-Wagons right now.
Is that all?
I mean, yeah. One for me, one for the wife, and one for the kid.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to be careful out there on those kinds of things because a lot of people don't know all the details and the tax law is really complicated, and so because of that, like sometimes you can make it sound like or seem like something makes a lot of sense even if it doesn't.
Well, if they say it loud enough, it's got to be real. It's got to be true. And put captions behind it.
That's true, right? Yeah, if you spend a lot of time editing your video, then then that definitely makes it. It's a challenge too, really, because it makes it feel more real, and it makes it feel more like whatever you would say, like high quality or more believable. What's the word for that?
More credible.
Yeah, more credible. Yeah, exactly. Because it's just a little bit better, But and this is a thing that I need to learn a little bit more about. Actually, How does TikTok monetize you, or do you even get monetized from TikTok?
That's a great question. I don't follow any of that. I mean,
No.
I guess in the streamer world on TikTok, they have these gifts that people give.
I don't know a ton about it, but I do know a little. So there's a few ways that you can get monetized on TikTok. And this is in most social media platforms where you are a quote unquote influencer, right? So
Sure.
One way is you have enough followers that TikTok decides to start having you tout some things like a change or a product or whatever. And then not only do you get some residuals off of that product you're selling, right? You get kind of like a commission, but TikTok will actually pay you to do that. And that's just, kind of your standard sort of like spokesperson for a thing, right? The other way is brands will actually come to influencers that have a ton of followers and have them try out their product and do videos about it and then do it that way. So I'm not 100% sure if it's TikTok that's paying people or if it's the advertisers that advertise on TikTok and have the influencers tout their stuff that do the paying.
I did see something when I was looking at that last night because I was watching this guy's videos over and over and over. And, once I started watching those, the other ones started popping up. And, it was saying that TikTok takes 50% of it. So you only get half whatever they're paying, which I thought is interesting. And, I'm looking more towards the YouTube side of that, monetizing and getting that up and running. So
Yeah, and I feel like YouTube has a much like more understandable model of that,
yeah,
at least right now, um, because it is like a very very much like because it's AdSense, right? Like they
yeah,
even have a program around it,
yeah,
where a lot of the other social media, at least as far as I've been able to see, like you could sell your product in your
right,
TikTok shop if you're an
right,
e-commerce vendor or something like this, um, but you don't get to monetize in quite the same way as if you were, hey, here's how my product works, and here's some cool things to know about my product, and here's some people using my product, or here's some people talking about things associated with my product, that can make a. I mean, if you get enough following, like, it can be a pretty substantial income stream for you.
sure. Yeah, I was
Um,
I
so I
was
like
listening to
YouTube for
something
that for
this
sure.
morning on that driving to my appointment, and they get
Yeah,
10 million views a month, and 10 million
10
views a month.
million.
Hmm?
That 10 million views a
10
month
million
seems
views a
low.
month.
Oh, that like this like whatever you were listening to
Yeah,
gets that many views.
yeah.
Like it's a podcast or something?
It was a podcast. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. I was flipping,
Yeah.
and so
And that
that
podcast gets
equates
10 million views.
it equates to $75,000 a month in AdSense revenue.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Like, can you imagine how powerful that is?
yeah,
Because on top of being the platform where people can go to learn about whatever it is that you're talking about or trying to sell or whatever,
right,
you're also getting paid.
right.
This is just a
And if you're doing it
YouTube.
right,
YouTube
you
has a
have
lot of
brand
power
deals
that way.
going on, and they're paying you
Oh
to
yeah,
talk about their products, and your
right.
shows
Well,
are sponsored, and you're getting paid for that. So it's
yeah,
all over the place. So yeah,
yeah. But it's the same thing too, though. It's like a lot of I don't think a lot of people think about how much it takes to like do a good YouTube video. They're not
Mhm.
free, right?
right.
And it takes not only does it take your time, you have to have someone or yourself edit it. If you want it to be high quality, you have to pay for that. You could use like some technologies exist. I think some
Oh
AI
yeah,
technologies exist to like edit, but they just like all kinds of AI, like you may end up with a third arm in there or something like this. Um, they're
yeah,
they all have their own problems. um, and then and then and then to some degree, like especially if you're relatively new, like you have to keep doing that. That takes time too. You have to market it in some way to drive traffic to
yep,
your video. And so I think people think, oh yeah, YouTube is super easy, but it feels like significantly more complicated than that. Getting
yeah.
10 million views a month is a pretty substantial
It is.
achievement,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And you think I'll just throw up a channel and get it rolling, but
Yeah,
most people start with no audience, and
right.
you have to build it, which means you have to get people to watch the videos before they will start suggesting them to others.
Yeah,
So at that point, now you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're trying to spread that. You're sharing them on X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, and we have to get it out. So you're really pushing it and having to work to get that first probably dozen videos seen until you get
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And it's just a lot more than you'd think.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
And I was thinking of something while we were talking, and that has slipped. So it'll come back to me. So I was going to ask you a question there.
no, it's fine. I'll be here.
So
um,
I mean, when I'm done with a long day, I will sometimes just mindlessly scroll. Go
yeah.
through Reels and TikTok. What are the videos that get you to stop? Where do you stop and
Oh,
watch
that's a really good.
and like look
Let
at
me
others?
hold on. Let me try right now. Sign up.
So I can answer that. For me, it's comedy. So like um, stand up like TikToks,
Yep.
or I'm kind of spiritual and woo woo, so I like spiritual and woo woo stuff. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
I got my algorithm pretty much dialed in these days.
I mess my algorithm up weekly. Honestly. Whether it's
Every
sports.
once in a while, I get stuck by uh, cute dogs or cats, so that definitely happens on
Mm.
occasion.
Oh
Um,
yeah, or cute babies that have adorable laughs. That's on
yeah,
mine too.
so I haven't found the babies haven't made it into my algorithm yet. I get to just enjoy that at
Yeah.
home, so I don't need the like extra
True.
yet.
Yeah.
Um, I get like a few nature things every once in a while. That I'll watch what's happening, but for the most part, I don't really stop all that much.
Yeah.
Sports highlights, especially because for a few years now, my wife and I we haven't really we haven't used a specific cable provider, so we don't have like TV.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched a lot of live sports in a while. And so every once in a while, I'll stop for sports highlights, especially if something, just like you would for any sports. Like,
Yeah.
it's a highlight for a reason, right? That's why
Yeah.
that's why they made a whole channel for it, back however long ago. Um, so those types of things are typically what I stop for. Do you have a set list of stuff, Jay?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I I I started making my own pizzas, pizza dough, and all that stuff. So I've
Uh-huh.
been watching a lot of those and just trying to get different ideas and thoughts. And I think I found the dough that I really like and got that down. And now it's just, experimenting and playing there. But right now that winter's hit, it's like, I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up with a Bronco. I plowed driveways. I'm watching snowplows, all those
Oh
videos.
yeah.
It's, back in the day, you had the ASMR videos where they're, cutting soap and things like that. For me, it's that scraping of the ground. It's
Mm.
kind of like soothing for me growing up with it, so
I,
I
I do
like
not love ASMR. It
that.
drives me nuts. Stop.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
My daughter will come up behind me and whisper something in my ear because she knows I hate that. And then she'll laugh hysterically for 20 minutes.
That's
And
funny.
now that we're two 2 weeks, 2 Sundays from the Daytona 500,
Oh yeah, as a
I
time.
I will probably start be cutting some more NASCAR videos myself.
There you go.
So
Yeah, that
yeah,
should be a lot of fun.
I'll try to get my creativity going there, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fun. What would you talk about?
latest news, predictions,
Hmm.
yeah, create some controversy, all kinds of fun stuff.
How many views does your channel that used to do this have? Are you up to like
It's got
1,000 total?
131 followers right now,
131 followers. Get
and I
it.
haven't posted a video since June of last year. So
Okay.
it's hung on pretty well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I
That's
I
good.
got close to 1,000 views on a couple of the videos. Some of the shorts I did got 20,000, 25,000 views.
Oh my
So
gosh. Oh
Wow.
yeah,
wow.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
Cross post those on
successful.
TikTok as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there like NASCAR accounting crossover topics?
No, but I mean, we all work for High Rock Accounting, and one
Yeah.
very famous NASCAR Hall of Famer has a company called High Rock Vodka, which I would
Oh yeah,
love
is
to
that right?
do the accounting for. Hint there, hint, or maybe I need to talk to the wife. How about you, Amy? Hint. So yeah, uh,
Hit us
yeah.
up.
I tried searching him out in Bristol when I was there last year, but he was racing Friday nights. So he was a little busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can't imagine the scale that goes into that whole business really. Like there's a lot of those are some big entities.
for sure.
I read an article that Blake Oliver of Accounting Podcast recently reposted, and it was about that there's a shortage of production accountants for movies in LA.
Really?
Like there's a
Yeah.
huge shortage, and they're all part of the unions.
Right.
So like I think it's stage assistants or stage something. It's not the actors or the writers guild. It's the
Right.
like everybody else.
Right.
But there's just not a ton of accountants for movies now, and like they said the range of pay for a movie could be anywhere from 21,000 to over 100 grand per movie, depending
Right.
on if it's a blockbuster or not. And so I went looking to see if there's anything posted, just so I could kind of get an idea of the cost, and are they remote, or did they make you come to LA, or what's going on? I couldn't find any myself, but
Yeah.
um, I just thought that was really interesting because I hadn't even thought about that. That yeah, movies would need accountants. Movie studios need accountants. It's one way to break into the biz.
That is. Yeah. You never know.
No, you
Interesting.
got me chasing down the internet over here.
Yeah, Blake is throwing a lot of stuff out there. I saw him on Twitter this morning sharing a CNBC article about
Mm-hmm.
costs of accounting services and the if you haven't already found a tax preparer, you might have a problem finding one because there's 17% less accountants out there this year than there were last year.
Yeah, well, and the boomers
17?
are getting ready to
Producing less.
retire. The
Yeah.
pipeline going into schools is way down,
Yep.
and so there's just not enough of us to go around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and we're seeing it, what we're doing as well. I mean,
Mhm.
everywhere, everybody, it's so hard to hire the right staff right now. And there's just such a level of, it's not unemployment, but I guess a level of employment that, you know, finding people is just so difficult.
What makes it that way, do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Uh, I think COVID was a major contributor to that. And
Yeah.
we started seeing people exiting during that, and I think it's just picked up over
Yeah.
the last few years.
Well, and I think even more so, COVID, I think, caused people, like, it kind of forced people to sit down and be still.
Yeah.
And a lot of people started to kind of rethink their lives and what they wanted to do with their lives. And many people decided they didn't want to just, live to work anymore. They wanted to work to live. And so
Mm-hmm.
they, either adjusted fire with their employer or they left to find something that would allow them a better work-life integration.
Right. And people. I mean, think about the pivot that had to take place in March of 2020. For those companies that were not remote, and the traditional CPA office, everybody was coming into the office, and there was. I mean, you had remote access, but it wasn't to the point where everybody could access the systems. And
I was at a
I know very
traditional
well.
I was at a traditional CPA firm during when COVID hit, and we had an office, and there were 20 people in office, and no one, even the younger people, had ever worked from home before. I was the only one, and that was because I had had a business before, and I had figured it out. Um, but it was a nightmare to try and get all the tech in the right spot so people could make sure that they had the right kind of setup at home,
Yep.
and then just trying to troubleshoot things, especially with some of our less tech savvy friends, was really hard to try to teach them how to use Slack, how to use a video call, how to no, we're not going to fax things anymore, we're going to email them, and here's how to use your phone to scan a document, right? That was really hard, and and on top of it was already tax season. And so, like, it was already this craziness. There were, these emergency bills going through the legislature that CPAs had to pay attention to. And then on top of it, a lot of them had never worked from home before and had to navigate that whole mess. It was a lot all at one time.
Yeah. So this was prior to me joining High Rock, of course, and we were already
I think all three
remote,
of us.
so it was no big deal, you know. And for those of us that were already in that situation, you know, it was business as usual. You know, hop on Zoom, make your calls, do your thing, and you know. But for a lot of people, it was painful, and
Yeah, I thought at the time, and I still think that this has had it's had a significant impact on the accounting profession generally.
yeah,
But I thought at the time that it really highlighted how, especially from the accounting perspective, it really highlighted how unimportant it was to have your accounting team in your office. And
yeah,
so that really allowed for the opportunity, and what I don't have metrics to back this up, but I would be absolutely shocked if outsourced accounting didn't like explode over the past 4 years. And I think that probably has something to do with the like issues that we're finding, right? If there are if there are like people are doing like a little bit here and there, like that's a lot different than just having an entire person in a space. Like you kind of would think like you would think that might actually help really, um,
mhm,
to 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 take a little bit of the burden off the demand. But when you take a step back, like every single company needs someone to do their financial records, right? Um, Most business owners, that's not their skill set. Like
right,
they didn't get into business to keep financial records. They got into business to do the thing that they care about, Kristy, like you were talking about, right? Like they're already living that
Mm-hmm.
dream,
mm-hmm,
and
Mm-hmm.
and and they're significantly more skilled in doing whatever that is because that's what they've either trained in or what they know about or what they've spent the past 10 years doing. And so it really it's everybody has to have some kind of record because you're either going to pay tax on it or you're going to have to report it to someone or someone's going to have some kind of interest in it. And so
yeah,
it's like the the need for accounting is extremely broad. And especially here in the United States as well because we have such a culture of like building your own business. And that too kind of expanded out of that COVID period, right? Because now people are like, well, I can't be at work. What am I going to do? Make my thing on Etsy, or I'm going to rent out my room space, or maybe I'll drive for Uber now, right? Like all this gig stuff
yeah,
as well, like really expanded the individual level need for like keeping a good record of where your income is coming from. And so the there there there's such a need for accounting professionals because you somebody has to do that for you, and if you as a business owner find somebody who can do it better than you, which is going to be just about anybody, and give you the time to be able to focus back onto your business,
Mm-hmm.
that's so powerful to you.
yeah,
um, and then if you're big enough or scaled enough that you could have your own like individual accountant, just one person who's doing work, but they're like maybe using 30 hours a week or something like that. Like when you sent them home, like now it's pretty clear to you, like, you know what, maybe I can just outsource that because I don't
Mm-hmm.
need that person in the
right,
office because I can just send my check run approval to someone else, or I can or anyone else can do it. And it's especially coupled with like the recession that, or like whatever, light recession, whatever you would call it, that came along with like after the aggressive push of monetary funds out, like
Mm-hmm.
the you're now trying to like cut cash. Like you need to be able to find ways to save money,
right,
and oftentimes, unfortunately for accountants, like you're the G&A, right? You're not out there selling more products. You're doing back office things that don't
Yeah.
always get valued in the same way as they probably should.
Yeah.
And so that could be like, I think that has a huge impact on the accounting profession in general because it does really broaden it out. And it
Well, do
does
you think
other
that
things.
maybe that some of that is on us to start to help our clients understand that we're not an expense, we're an investment, right? Because
Well,
with them, with it being, with us being able to free them up from wearing that specific hat,
Yeah.
finance and accounting hat, right? Now that frees them up to be able to go out and market or go out and sell or develop new products, right?
Right. And I do think it is like a very important thing to remind that business owner of that particular thing is the like biggest value that you're offering. But on top of that, you also are offering additional value too. Because if
Mhm.
you're providing advice and expertise about like where is this business heading, what are some of the strategies or things that we can think about that continue to free up that time or that allow you to do other things with your time or make you more money, right? Like all of those things can be extremely valuable to a business owner, and it is truly incumbent on the accountant to be like, hey, here's all the things I'm doing for you and here's what that means to you. I do think that that's really important for
Yeah,
sure.
they shouldn't look at that admin work as a cost center, because you are freeing them up to make more revenue or do what they want to do.
Mhm.
And utilizing our skill, we're going to help save in other ways as well. We're
Right.
going to help increase cash flow and make sure inventory is being handled properly and make things more efficient. So all
Right.
those things add up, and you're going to pay X dollars, but odds are you're going to make 2 to 3 times more than that over time, and
Yeah,
it's
easily.
you're going to more than
Well,
cover your.
a lot of times, if you've got yourself a good accountant, you're also kind of getting a quasi business coach to boot, right?
Yeah.
Because accountants work with tons of different clients in various industries. And so we've been able to see over the course of time what works for some, what works for doesn't for others, or the best way to get a tax break or whatever, right? And we can share that information that we've collected over time to help make strategic decisions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's about keeping the business owner focused on
Good
what's
at,
their
right?
mission, what are their objectives, what are they
Mhm.
trying to achieve in the next 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, things along those lines. And it's like we plot the path and create the map, and it's the guide to get them there. And things pop up. We get barricades and roadblocks and potholes. Okay, here's how we get around them and how we can keep you on your path.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I think a good thing for the future actually is to keep a record of those types of things too, Jay. It would
Yeah,
be a great discussion point to talk more about
sure.
exactly what some things are about around cash flow, around budget considerations, and the
Yeah.
things that business owners can be thinking about. Of here are the things that a good advisor can do for you, a
Mm-hmm.
good accounting advisor. Um, I think that's an interesting thing to think about, and especially right now, like you were just talking about at the very beginning, at the top here. Like, let's say lots of complications going on, right? If your tax accountant checks in with you like in
Yep.
April for the first time, maybe you didn't plan right for your 100% depreciation this year,
Exactly.
and you could have done it differently. But if you have that person who's invested in your business the same way you are, like
Mhm.
they truly like
Yeah,
the
for sure.
the value can't like you really can't even place a value on that value.
Yeah. So we jumped right on in and started having a
Yeah.
chat. We didn't really say what we
Yeah,
were
sorry,
really
fellas,
doing.
fellas, fellas over here.
Yeah. So Chris, why don't you just talk a little bit about what we've been talking about and what we're going to talk about? Not what
Yeah.
we talked about today, but what we've been
No, of
talking
course.
about and what we're
Of
going to
course.
do on our Friday afternoons here.
Yeah. So on our Friday afternoons, Jay and I, we love to talk. We love to talk about business. We love to talk about accounting. We also we have passion about automation, about the future of accounting, about things that you can change within the accounting space. And particularly, we both are very excited about e-commerce and the retail economy that goes around that. And and helping business owners to learn more about the advisory stuff that we just talked about. All those value adds, Jay and I both love to give those out. We want to be able to provide value to folks, and we want to have people on like Kristy who do the same thing, who have the same interests. And so our goal over however long we can go for is to come weekly with tidbits of information around a variety of different topics. Those topics, of course, are going to be based on those things that we're passionate about, things that we care about. That's going to be e-commerce stuff. So you're an e-commerce retailer. Like what's going on? How do these things impact you? The tax rules that we just talked about, how does that impact your business? The tax rules that come up in the next week, how does that impact your business? We're going to talk a little bit about reporting matters or compliance issues. So just taxes in general, or like metrics that matter to you and where to find them on your financial statements. Our goal is to give you learning at an easy level that allows for you to understand your business better, and allows for hopefully something that's interesting and exciting as well. And then one of the other things that we're going to talk about, and that probably I think is going to be one of the most interesting, is automation. And that's because the automation space changes all the time. And so there's going to be new automation happening pretty regularly. We're going to talk about how that impacts your business, the things that automation can do for you. And then we'll talk specifically about accounting related automations or e-commerce related automations and things that you can do in your business to help you to, as a business owner, to get more time for yourself, or help you as an accountant to be able to service more clients. Like that's our goal, is to provide a lot of information, to have banter about different topics like NASCAR and scrolling through Twitter, and to be a resource that you can come to, that you enjoy to come to every week, to listen to about whatever has been recently happening, and hopefully to also gain some insights that can help you in whatever role it is that you may have.
Well,
What I missed, Jay?
well,
Let's go. Should have written it up.
so
Should have had a speed.
everybody knows you're Chris, but who are you, Chris?
Yeah. So
Introduce yourself.
at the very end here, I'll introduce myself. We can edit. So this is the thing about YouTube that we were talking about before. The good thing about YouTube is that you can edit it, right? You can take this that's at the end and put it back at the beginning, and no one will know the difference if you splice it all the right way. I am Chris Geno. I have been in the accounting field for 15 years now. I started with RSM in 2009. I started as a financial statement auditor. I was at RSM for almost 10 years, went to a small local firm in the Dallas area for a couple years after that, still doing assurance work, mostly audits, but I also got the opportunity there to do other things that were interesting. So I helped some clients, because our clients were mostly tax clients, a lot smaller than the ones at RSM, with things like due diligence, where I got to have a conversation with the business owner who was potentially buying an entity immediately. And I got to say to him or her, like, here's the things that I noticed about this business. Here's what, if I were buying this business, here's what I would look out for if I were you, or the extra questions that I would ask. And it made me realize pretty clearly, like, this is a lot more enjoyable. Being able to provide value now is a lot more enjoyable than kind of what assurance had become, which was checkboxing, right? You were compliance, right? You couldn't really provide value. Sure, you could provide a management letter at the end of your audit that says, hey, you should consider X, Y, and Z, which might make your controls better and would keep us from spending so much time auditing your books and records. But that's just not the same as being able to say, hey man, look out for this, this, and this, because these types of things are really going to be a problem, or this looks really unusual. And so it got me to thinking a little bit, right? So I started doing this diligence work, and I started doing these types of projects where I was doing like purchase accounting assistance, where we were doing some valuation stuff and talking people through, like, hey, how does that work? And you could provide the value immediately because you weren't auditing them. You were just helping them with advisory. You were doing advisory work, and continue to do this at the same time, I had started to try to develop my network, and so I got to go in December of 3 or 4 years ago now. Maybe it was 2019. No, it would have been after COVID. So maybe no, it would have been 2019 maybe. I got to go to CPA practice advisors and sit at one of their like their day long like CBE sessions. Right, I got to be one of the people that was on the panel. As an auditor, we worked with Wolters Kluwer and all of their products, and so I got to talk to them. I talked about some of the products that we were using for them anyway, and they were like, "Hey, you want to come talk about it here?" And so I did. And while I was waiting in the green room there to go on and talk about where the future of auditing was going and how Wolters Kluwer was going to help you get there, we I got to listen to Liz and to a few other folks. I think Kenji was what is Kenji's last name?
Kuramoto.
Komodo. Yeah, Kenji Komodo. I got to listen to them talk about their favorite apps in accounting. And it was an extremely interesting conversation for me, especially as an auditor, right? You don't get to see that as much because you're not in the day-to-day activity. You're just not touching the automation. You're seeing the output of the automation. And so I looked into High Rock at the time and started to have a little bit more interest. And then a position opened up that I was like, I think I'm qualified to do that. Let me have a conversation. And then a few weeks later, here I am. So I've been with IROC now for about 2 years, and I've used that experience through that I had as an auditor because one of the interesting things about being an auditor is there's a couple ways to test balances. The first one is to look at all the paperwork, and the second one is to look for things that are unusual. They're called analytical procedures, right? And so what that means is that you're comparing balances to expectations. And when you do that enough times, what you start to understand is like how things work together, right? When you're looking at a bunch of different financial statements, you start to understand what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And so being able to do that allows me as an advisor to be able to do those due diligence projects or to be able to assist clients as a controller or a CFO and say, hey, you know what? This particular thing doesn't really make any sense. Like we're missing something here, or this relationship is very unusual, or also that history allowed me to do research, right? So I could go out into the internet and be like, there's other companies that are like you that have these kinds of ratios, but yours is this, and so that doesn't really make sense. And so it really allows the history of audit and being able to do research around audit and being able to do analytical procedures within an audit set me up really successfully to be an accounting advisor because it lets me interpret historical financial records and also give you kind of insight into what's happening coming forward for a business as well. My favorite clients have always been retailers, and that is because just like any other college student, I had a job. I had to pay for food that I ate. And so I worked at Lowe's while I was in college. I worked at Albertsons when I was in college. And while I was working at Albertsons, I was ordering product. And I was trying to manage our back stock and the inventory that we had there at the stores, right? And so I always thought inventory management was interesting. And so when I got to be an auditor, some of the clients that we audited were grocery stores too. And so I got to see the other side of grocery stores, the true like high level version of what a grocery store entity looks like. And there are loads and loads of entities that sell in grocery stores, and those were our clients too. They could sell milk, they could sell chips, they could sell all kinds of different things. But those business models are all pretty similar in that they have inventory, they're selling that inventory to someone, and they're looking to increase the volume of those sales, right? And so that commerce space, the retail space, is something that I've always enjoyed because it's just something that I've always been around. And so I've loved touching those types of entities, and I love learning more about what's going on in those spaces, and I love helping business owners that are in those spaces as well. That's a pretty long-winded story about me. So that's me. That you will find that I am sometimes long-winded, but I enjoy. But I think that hopefully highlights that I am extremely passionate about this particular topic.
That just highlights there are so many insights to come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. What did I miss? What did I not tell you about myself?
How about you, Kristy? Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Kristy Monahan. I am currently the technology guru here at High Rock Accounting. I have taken a long and circuitous route to get to where I'm at that is not your standard sort of like accounting track that you may think of. I went to school, and in my undergrad, I couldn't decide really what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I wanted to be a mom at some point, but I didn't want to be a broke mom. So I got a degree in business administration and figured, I'll just work for a while and see what's kind of like tickling my fancy and then start to pursue that a little bit more, down the road. So I worked in various places in my early career and always ended up at the end of the day in an accounting department for that company every time. And so, I started to realize when my kids were real little, I had stopped working temporarily to stay home with them while they were real, real little. And when my daughter was in preschool, they needed it was a nonprofit and they needed a treasurer. And I got voluntold I was going to be the treasurer. And so I had to learn QuickBooks and I had to learn nonprofit accounting. And that was kind of the beginning of my, this is something I actually really do enjoy. I really like this. I like the technology and I want to kind of pursue this and see where it goes. So I, worked under a few CPAs to learn bookkeeping to start, just, how to get write-ups done, book to tax kind of stuff. And, kind of found my passion in nonprofits eventually. And so I started my own little bookkeeping firm. It was just me, and it was me working out of the house, which was perfect when the kids were little. And I had several clients, but most of them really tiny little nonprofits. And so I was able to get them set up and get them rolling and make sure that they were being compliant and help them make some decisions about how they wanted to spend their mission funds. And then eventually, it was time for some benefits. So I went back to work and worked at a $10 million nonprofit for a few years. Worked under another CPA, putting basically a bookkeeping division within his tax practice. And then ended up here at High Rock shortly after that. That was right during COVID. And I was pretty burnt out after trying to help 80-year-old partners figure out how to do work at home. So I had a good friend working here at the time, and she said, I think there's a spot that would be perfect for you. You're a good accountant. You know a lot about a lot of different things, and you love tech, and you like to play with tech, and that's exactly the human we need on the team. So that was 3 years ago for me. Almost actually to the day. I started exactly 3 years ago today. So
Yeah, how about
Wow, happy anniversary.
that?
Well, for myself, I'm Jay Kimelman. I'm a CPA, and I started my accounting career in healthcare and worked for two different nursing home companies. Worked my way up and left that, got into some back office work, and that's where I really started playing with the technology. And I haven't looked back. I mean, even while I was, doing the other stuff, that's where I actually started my remote working career. Was in 1992 or 1993. I was working remote with a 56K modem, which wasn't
oh,
cheap.
wow.
Yeah. So this dating myself there a little bit, but yeah, I went through there, and which led to me um, working at a
I have a
local
really hard time getting over
Orlando pharmaceutical manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, that led to me starting my own nutraceutical manufacturing company. And from there, led me to where I am today. And everything along the way, every tool I used, every situation has taught me something that helps me work with clients and the technology used today that adds value. And that's what it's about. And that's what I love is, able to I love the ability to help business owners achieve their goals and achieve them
Yeah.
faster. I love helping them get from point A to point B faster, whether that's through automation or building workflows that work. So that's what is ingrained in me, and can't wait for us to really dig in a little deeper next week, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Us
this is
all. Let's
this has
go.
gone by so quickly. So I
Yeah,
just
it's
want
already
to
been
say
an hour. Yeah.
thank you to both of you for joining us on our inaugural episode here, I guess
On
you
the
call it.
rocks.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Well, thank you for having me. Proud to be your first guest.
All good. And
Anytime, all the time.
yeah, so we will catch you next week. Have a great weekend. And
See you
yeah,
on the next one.
what was that? I'm still dying to remember what that was that I said. Sliding into the weekend or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well,
It's all right. On the rocks is a good one though.
yeah.
Still like it.
So,
Still like it.
so yeah, this is On the Rocks, brought to you by High Rock Accounting. So, with that,
See you next week.
yeah.